Hey everyone, what's going on? Welcome into our latest TDR Cannabis in 5, presented by Dutchie. I'm your host, Shad Dales. And earlier this week, boxing legend and cannabis entrepreneur Mike Tyson stepped into the Pennsylvania state capitol in Harrisburg, not to throw punches, but to push for adult use cannabis legalization. And while the energy indeed was high, the message from lawmakers was nuanced. They're open to it, but they're watching as to what happens next in Washington. So in today's episode, we'll break down what Tyson said, what lawmakers are signaling, and why federal rescheduling could be the key to unlocking Pennsylvania's cannabis future. Because we all know, as we've said many times, this is going to be one of the biggest adult use markets in the U.S. So let's get into our latest TDR Cannabis in 5, presented by Dutchie. All right, let's begin with what happened this week. Tyson met with several state leaders, including Senate President Pro Tempore Kim Ward, and reportedly planned to speak with Governor Josh Shapiro. His message was clear. Legal cannabis is good for business, good for public health, and good for Pennsylvania. So he pointed to his brand Tyson 2.0 and said the state is missing out on jobs and tax revenue that neighboring states are already collecting. In his own words, everybody else around you did that. Must say something about you not knowing what's going on in the community, end quote. So Tyson claimed legalization could create up to 500,000 jobs. That number may be optimistic, but the economic potential, let's face it, is very real. So let's now talk about dollars. If Pennsylvania were to legalize adult use cannabis, it could generate $400 to $500 million in annual tax revenue based on models from states like Michigan and Illinois. So big money here. And with that, that's money that could go towards education, infrastructure, public health, and law enforcement. And with the state finalizing its budget, cannabis revenue is becoming harder and harder to ignore here. They need the money. Senate Bill 120, co-sponsored by Republican Dan Laughlin and Democrat Sharif Streep, is also gaining some traction here. This is a bipartisan issue, and Tyson's visit helped spotlight that. So it's good to see encouraging signs and support from both sides of the aisle here. So really, why hasn't it happened yet then? Well, here's where things get interesting. Multiple lawmakers told Tyson and his team that while they support adult use cannabis in principle, they're still hesitant to move forward without some direction from the federal government. Whether that's fully true or not, it's worth talking about. So they didn't say outright that legalization depends on federal action, but they did hint that rescheduling cannabis on broader federal reform could help speed up the process in this. So when you read between the lines here, in other words, Pennsylvania, they may be ready, but they're looking for a green light from Washington. Another example, Washington, that we need some direction. I'll just keep saying this week after week. In addition to that, several lawmakers also expressed interest in hearing from the Trump administration on cannabis reform. With President Trump in office, state leaders are definitely watching closely for signals on rescheduling, enforcement priorities, and let's face it, federal banking. Then we have Susie Wiles. She's Trump's chief of staff, and she's been described as a quiet advocate for cannabis modernization. So if she continues to push reform behind the scenes, it could give states like Pennsylvania the confidence to act. And we need more markets online. So while we can't say definitively that adult use cannabis in Pennsylvania hinges on federal action, it's clear that federal clarity would help accelerate the process. So I don't want to muddy the waters here. It's not for sure they need federal action, but let's face it, if there is some direction, this would speed up in a hurry. And speaking of speeding up, before we continue, a quick thank you to our friends over at Dutchie, the tech platform powering smarter cannabis retail. If you own a dispensary or work in dispensary operations, compliance, or e-commerce, Dutchie helps simplify it all. From online ordering to point-of-sale systems to payments and analytics, they connect every part of your cannabis business all in one secure platform. If you want to learn more about this, make sure to visit business.dutchie.com. All right, let's now look at the risk of delays. While lawmakers are waiting, the unregulated market isn't slowing down. Earlier this month, it was reported last week that a Pennsylvania grand jury released a 107-page report showing that over 93% of hemp products sold at smoke shops and gas stations were actually illegal, unregulated, mislabeled, and often dangerously potent. 93%, people. So you can understand why Mike Tyson is pushing for regulation in all this. And he's the guy to champion it around. Because when you look at this amount of illicit product on the streets right now, that's not a loophole, it's a public risk. The products aren't tested, as we know, they're not labeled, they're not being sold without age verification or really any oversight at all. So meanwhile, the regulated cannabis industry, as we know, it continues to be held in much higher standards. We got testing, labeling, compliance, no interstate commerce, heavy taxes. So that balance is definitely hurting consumers and licensed operators alike. So again, you can understand why Mike Tyson and his group are in the state Senate to talk about really what's at stake here. So here's really where I land on this. Pennsylvania, it's close. The public public supports adult use cannabis. Lawmakers are engaged. The budget window is open, but the missing part in all this right now is federal direction. So we can't say for sure that legalization won't happen without it, but based on what lawmakers told Tyson's team, it's clear that federal clarity would help move things forward. That's the reality. And while we wait, the unregulated market, as we know, it continues to grow. Consumers are exposed to mislabeled, untested, and often illegal products. So that's not just a policy issue. As we've said before, it's a public safety issue. Yes, the hemp industry isn't the villain, but the bottom line is this: we need to get rid of bad actors on both sides. So let's see what happens next in PA, because let's face it, the state needs tax revenue right now. As much as $400 to $500 million would be generated if adult use passes. And if they're sort of in some ways waiting for some direction on federal reform, it may be a decision that they're going to have to make on their own sooner rather than later. That's it for our latest TDR Cannabis in 5. Let us know your thoughts and what you think is going to happen in PA by leaving your comments below. And as usual, if you like this breakdown, make sure to give it a like, subscribe, smash on that bell for all notifications. Stay connected with us here at the TDR Cannabis in 5 presented by Dutchie. All right, everyone, enjoy your day. Thanks again for checking in. I'll keep you all posted. And if there's anything I hear, you'll be the first to know by staying connected. Take care, everyone, and thanks again for watching.